So, we will move forward next to Helen Hayes, who is BCA's local MP, and as such we know her quite well, and she actually has hands-on experience in her own constituency, the constituency that BCA is in, of helping people access the compensation scheme forms. So, Helen Hayes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Enrique, and good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see so many people here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we as members of Parliament can do to help, and some of the work that I've been doing over the last 2 years on behalf of my constituents who are affected by the Windrush Scandal. I should explain a little bit about boundaries. So I think there are people here from much further afield than Lambeth. But since we're here in Lambeth Town Hall, I'll just say a little bit about the kind of political geography of Lambeth. So Lambeth has 3 members of Parliament, and we had 2 changes at the general election just before Christmas. I represent the constituency of Dulwich and West Norwood, which also crosses the boundary into Southwark, and I represent sort of the Dulwich part of Southwark, West Norwood, big chunk of Brixton in Cold Harbour Ward. Belle Ribeiro-Addy, who is sitting at the back, if you want to give us a wave, Belle, was elected just before Christmas to represent the Streatham constituency, which was previously represented by Chukwamuna, and Florence Eshalomi, who I think was hoping to pop in this afternoon but had some other commitments as well, was elected to represent Vauxhall, previously represented by Kate Hoey. So there's been a bit of change in Lambeth, but if you're a Lambeth resident and you're affected by the Windrush Scandal, whichever of us is your local MP will be very, very happy to see you and to help you and to do our very best to represent you. When this story broke in the press, it's fair to say that lots of us with constituencies like mine absolutely recognised it instantly, because we've been working on individual cases of people who were Windrush citizens for a very long time. So before we heard about the Windrush Scandal in the press, for example, I had worked on behalf of a constituent of mine who'd come to this country from Sierra Leone in the 70s, and we've been working for 2 years successfully in the end to get her status back and to get all of her benefits backdated and so on. And my caseworkers were saying to me, there is a theme, there's a pattern. There are people who would never previously have had an issue with their status who are now being denied their right to be in this country. We were raising those cases and working on it. What we didn't understand was that it was structural and national, and the extent and scale of the problem. And I think it's fair to say that the impacts of this injustice are profound, and that they will have implications for Home Office policy and for immigration policy, not just in the short term, but for decades to come. The scandal, the extent of the hurt and rejection and financial disadvantage and mental health impacts, which Patrick will speak about, which are really important to recognise. Those things are not swiftly dealt with, and some of my frustrations, certainly in the House of Commons chamber, has been listening to different Home Secretaries talking as if this was somehow an administrative matter that could be quickly resolved. When we know that it is complex and profound and very, very far-reaching in the extent of the injustice. And I think some of the lack of understanding of that you're having to be in the House of Commons chamber and explain the 1948 British Nationality Act to members of the government who didn't understand that we were talking not about people who had other nationalities, but about people who were British nationals because they had come here under the 1948 Act and had those rights and were being denied those rights, was very shocking indeed. As MPs, we can do two broad types of work on behalf of our constituents. We can do representation and scrutiny in Parliament, and those are the moments that you will have seen on the television of whether it's myself or David Lammy or Diane Abbott or Fangam Debonair, who represents a very large BAME community in Bristol, standing up and challenging the government on what they have done in the House of Commons chamber. And we have a duty to represent our constituents. We don't have a duty to believe the government. And so I recognise the work that Martin has done very hard work to get the scheme to be as good as it can be. But if as MPs we see that it isn't working for individual constituents and that there are problems and delays and frustrations, then it's our responsibility to stand up and to challenge the government and to make that known and to bring that into the light of day. And we have been doing that, and we will continue to do that. There is more detailed scrutiny work that goes on through select committees. So the Home Affairs Select Committee has the role of scrutinising the Home Office, and they are doing constantly sort of detailed work to review how things are going in every aspect of the response to the Windrush Scandal. The other aspect of MP's work is individual constituency casework. So I've worked on behalf of many constituents over the last 2 years who are Windrush citizens who have been affected by the scandal, and that work has ranged from really simple things like pointing people to the compensation scheme and making sure that they are aware that they have a right to make an application, all the way through to much more detailed work. So I have sat with constituents myself and helped them to fill out the form and to understand what they need to submit with it and what aspects of their story it might be important to include in that form. I have met with ministers on behalf of individual constituents where things have not gone well, to challenge and to press and to try to urge the government to give a better response. We can write to the Home Office, we can try to escalate matters that are not being resolved, and we can keep on challenging, and then we can use the accumulation of all of those cases in order to do the first bit that I talked about, which is the parliamentary representation. So I've also raised cases that have not been going well in the House of Commons chamber on behalf of individuals as well as collectively in relation to the impacts. I think we have to be honest that there have been some really significant problems. So I have a Windrush citizen who is my constituent who came back into the country almost 2 years ago who has not received a penny from the government. And we applied to the hardship fund, she has applied to the compensation fund, and that length of delay is really not good enough. So delay is a problem. I think there is a real problem with lack of joined upness with other government departments. Particularly with DWP, and it's heartening to hear from Martin that there are some cases of benefits issues that have been resolved with the intervention of the Home Office. I have to say that hasn't been my experience. Again, I have a constituent who should be entitled to receive attendance allowance from the government, who is not being allowed to claim attendance allowance because she was not in the country during the required period for the assessment. The only reason she wasn't in the country was because she was illegally being prevented by the British government from being in the country. And that has been a brick wall, that case. And we were told that the DWP couldn't pay out because it was not within the law, but we were told to apply to the hardship fund. The hardship fund didn't pay out. That constituent is still left without any money after a considerable period of time. So I hope that as claimants are starting to get offers from the Home Office, that process will speed up, and I hope that those offers will be considered to represent justice and to be commensurate with the injustice that those claimants have experienced. But I will start to believe that when I start to see my constituents who I've worked with being appropriately and justly compensated by the scheme, and the delays that we've seen so far have been extremely frustrating indeed. The final thing that I just wanted to say is that there is an ongoing set of implications of the Windrush Scandal for government policy more widely, and as we come back into this new Parliament, that's an area that I am turning my attention to. So I mentioned the lack of joined upness with other departments, but we also now have Brexit coming at the end of this month, and I know that Brexit raises a similar series of implications for residents living in the UK who come from Europe around their status, around the insecurity of their status, and around a government process that they are now required to engage with that they didn't have to engage with before. So we are looking more broadly at the implications of Windrush for the future of immigration policy. And we know that many residents are still living with the consequences of the hostile environment policy in terms of their day-to-day interactions with other parts of government, and that is also something that needs ongoing scrutiny and representation and challenge, and we will keep on doing that as your members of Parliament in this new parliamentary term. And then I just mentioned, because Enrique reminded me of it earlier, and then I will stop talking, I promise, about some of the kind of much broader implications. So Windrush was not a moment in time. It was, but it needs to be a profound moment of reflection on our national identity, on how we see our national identity and how we communicate our national identity. Some of the work I've been doing over the previous parliamentary term, coming out of Windrush, is around issues like the content of the history curriculum in schools, whether we're teaching our children an accurate version of history, whether we're using migration as the prism for teaching history to our children, because this question of everybody in the UK, everybody in our communities being able to find their own story in our national story is absolutely central to being able to not only compensate Windrush citizens who have been so unjustly treated, but also moving on to become a country where everybody once again feel that they are recognised and valued and appreciated for the part that they play in our society. Final thing I'd say is that if you are struggling with the compensation scheme, if you don't understand the compensation scheme, if you're questioning whether you might have a right to apply to the compensation scheme, do get in touch with your local MP, whether that's me, whether that's somebody else, because we can help to advise. We can't provide legal advice, and that's important, but we can provide advice and representation in relation to the government, and we can help to escalate and to raise your case. And then the final thing to say is just thank you to BCA for the leadership role that you have played, to Jacqueline and her team. I don't know what we would have done 2 years ago without the clinics that the BCA were offering. It's been such a valuable role, and I'm really delighted and encouraged that you're starting that service up again for a period of time, because it will help to make sure that people do get the compensation that they're entitled to from the British government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen. So we have a few more speakers to go, so I hope you can stay. I know we started a little bit late, but we have used them all.